that's Claudia, everybody. She is a digital avatar with a cloud-based AI. Before I start a panel, I'd like to introduce Cloud9 Technologies' virtual humanoid robot, who may not be responding to me. Here we go. Hi, Claudia. My name is Manolo. It's nice to meet you. She's saying, it's nice to meet you, too. I don't think we're going to get an audio on this, so I'd rather, if we can just move along. I know we are running behind on time, and I want to give the speakers and the panels a lot of time to talk. So let me just start out by introducing everyone. I'd like to introduce Brad. I know you gave me your name, and I messed it up already. Bogolea, like Mongolia. Yes, exactly. That's how he told me, and I messed it up. He's the CEO and co-founder of Simbe Robotics. He's responsible for the company's vision execution, leading automation solution in the retail industry. In November of 2015, Brad brought to the market the Tally robot, the first autonomous shelf auditing and analytics solution to help retailers ensure merchandise is always stocked and in the right place and correctly priced. Brad is on the NRF's list of people shaping retail's future. We also have Steve Carlin with me. He leads SoftBank Robotics America. They make pepper. If you don't know what pepper is, then you've been missing a lot too. And several other robots. He is the Global Chief Strategy Officer. He acts as the General Manager for the Americas region and oversees global marketing, product, and strategy. Previously, Steve was at Facebook, where he held the role of Global Head of Strategy and Gaming. In this role, he drove the global strategic vision for the company's gaming business and was an external thought leader to the gaming industry. And then on the end here, we have Dr. Randall Wilkinson. He is the co-founder and CEO of Wilkinson Group, a company deeply invested in the future of fresh bread. It's robotic Wilkinson mini bakery, which has also been called BreadBot. If you haven't seen it, it was all over the press on day one. Makes it possible for continuous baking in-store of delicious, all-natural bread throughout the day as it engages directly with shoppers. This disruptive technology decreases cost and shrinks the environmental impact of current bread production by making the central factory and fleet of bread delivery trucks unnecessary. So super disruption. So without further ado, I'm going to ask you all the same question so we can kind of just move down the way here. The first question is, let's talk about the retail robotics market overall. The space is growing rapidly, and leaders are starting to emerge. So in your opinion, who are the top 2 to 3 leaders and why?
So I think one way to think about the leading companies in the retail robotics space is to think about the leading applications. And at Simbe, we believe firmly that one of the leading applications is actually better understanding in-store operations. So with our robot Tally, we believe we're building one of the most valuable data sets in retail and actually understanding the performance of the shelf. Some other key applications we're seeing across the retail robotics space, of course, is warehouse robotics, with Amazon being a key leader there, and also aspects like customer service, where folks like SoftBank have deployed more than 25,000 peppers across the globe.
I'll add to that and say Fetch Robotics in the back end in the warehouse is going to help really automate, I think, a big chunk of the retail world. But honestly, we are very happy to announce a global partnership with Simbe, and I would say hands down Tally is the world #1 when it comes to shelf automation and being able to track inventory. I started my career at Procter & Gamble, so the effectiveness of what their product does will be industry changing for sure.
I think as we look at it from our perspective, one of the most significant areas happening is this notion of the transition of things from centralized to moving to the edge. And that's happening not only in computing, which is a big thing right now, but it's also happening in production. In our case, it's taking bread that normally has been produced centrally and moving that out to the edge where when you produce it there, you've cut down the need for distribution, congestion of the traffic, all of the things that happen, the time factor, the delays, that age things. So there's a lot of things happening, and I really don't have in that area any specific group that I would list, but it's an important area where this move to the edge, creating the the product out at the edge rather than at the central location. I think that's a big trend.
Absolutely. Are your robots designed to work with people? How do they work with them? How do you negotiate people walking through the aisles and interacting or accidentally interacting with your robot?
Yes. So our robot Tally is designed to actually operate in retail stores during normal store hours. So not only does it serve as a power tool to the retail store team and helping them better identify where there are problems on the shelf so they can help better fix them, but also frees them up for customer service. We've designed into Tally specific behaviors to really yield to the shopper and essentially give them sort of the right of way. So Tally's not by any means designed to interact with the shopper directly and to move the model beyond people. We've actually begun essentially integrating Tally's data with a number of different applications. So one of the things that Tally understands is specifically where products are on the shelf, and we're sharing that information with robots like Pepper to help customers better locate product in store, as well as to click and collect or click and delivery services so they can better identify if product is actually on the shelf and where it's located.
Steve, so we know the Pepper is definitely frontline, interacts directly with customers. How would you say, I know he's talking about how it, say, collaborates with Tally, but how would you say, is Pepper working with other types of robots or alongside a sales associate? How would you say that relationship is?
So we are showcasing here at CES the ability to leverage a suite of cloud services in order to make the experience that you're having better as a shopper, and then also as a retail operator, maybe the store manager, allowing the systems to go up to the cloud and bring down relevant, contextually accurate, and timely information to help them run the store a little better. And so what we'll do is we'll connect Pepper to Tally. We'll be able to say, such and such an item is actually on the shelf. It's on aisle 5. It's such and such a price. And people who shop that also shop these other things. And so what that starts to get to is what's called the omni-channel gap, meaning I know a lot about you when you're on e-commerce, but I don't know anything about you when you're in the store. But how do you bridge that? And this is where some of these systems working together can actually start to increase the ability to understand who's there and to deliver them relevant value propositions. And so we're really happy to be able to showcase the effectiveness of what the two systems working together can really provide for a retailer.
Dr. Randall, when it comes to the BreadBot, how does that, I think of all things, you're cooking or you're making something in front of people and they're close in interaction. How would you say that relationship works and how?
Well, the design of the BreadBot from the start has been to relate to the user. One of the things that's happened with us and food through much of the 20th century was that there was a disconnect between the origin of our food and the consumption of the food, so that where in the old days grandma was making the food, mom was making the food, whatever, you knew about how it came, but today nobody knows, for example, how bread is made. But in our case, as the consumer comes along, they're transparently in front of them, they see the entire process from raw ingredient to the final loaf and engage with it. Kids love it. They now understand that their bread actually came from this thing called flour, and that process being transparent is very engaging.
When it comes to just the designs of the robots, this again is all general question for all of you, is when the robots are designed, some are designed to mimic human gestures, some are designed to have expressions. Some robots are designed to replicate human activity, like the stock taking and inventory or making food, but I've noticed that those two robots, specific to like operational side, are designed much differently. I mean, you've seen those coffee machines out there where it actually is mimicking human movement, but yours are much different. Can you tell me a little bit more? Let's start with you, Brad. How are you designing your machine to be more efficient in what it did, not necessarily replicate a human walking down the aisle?
So from a design principle perspective, when we built Tally, we wanted to build something that would blend seamlessly within the retail store environment. When you go to buy milk, bread, or juice in the morning, you don't necessarily want to be distracted by a robot that's actually taking stock. So a lot of Tally's sort of form factor or ergonomics sort of take that into account. In addition, we've designed, an optical system that allows us to very clearly capture from, the bottom shelf to the top. Softly alert customers that it's in the environment, so they are at least aware that it's around. But Tally will do its best to avoid, for example, a trafficked aisle and go to the next one and come back to that aisle later.
Did human fear factor influence the design at all? Because I noticed it's very sleek and not necessarily assuming and threatening.
Yeah, so, most consumers, what they know about robotics today is really what they see in the movies. It's important for us to take human and robot interaction quite seriously from a design perspective. Nobody wants big, scary robots in places like retail stores.
Right. Dr. Wilkinson.
Well, there's no question that over time, human activity has perfected certain movements and certain activities, and I think there are some things for which the anthropomorphic approach is a very good approach. On the other hand, imagine our design start having been that the robotic hands are kneading the loaf, the space, the inappropriate use of that would have been apparent. So what we did was to start by saying, what is it that you have to accomplish, and what's the most efficient way to do that? And so rather than starting anthropomorphically, we began really from the ground up in terms of function.
Great. All right, so we have a couple more minutes. I will ask you specifically what you think the big benefits are to retailers and brands when it comes to these robotic solutions.
Yeah, well, I would just add to that, the form factor matters in robotics. So you design for the experience that you're trying to achieve. If it's trying to do manual labor like count shelves, then you design it one way. If it's designed to engage with people, you design it to be friendly and welcoming with arms that gesture because that's how we speak, et cetera. Right. So to answer your next question, I think that the key is with any kind of automation, whether it's robotics or otherwise, it's to be able to eliminate some of the redundant tasks that you find in these industries. So think about retail. You're talking about a vast majority of players that are operating on somewhere between 4 and 5% margin. That's a really, really difficult environment to be profitable. To deliver on Wall Street's expectations, you generally have to add one more item to the basket. Because Walmart's not going to add foot traffic. It's just not going to happen. There's already 30+ million people walking through there every month. But in order to meet Wall Street's expectation, if you can get one more item in the basket, then you're going to probably deliver. So all the things that you're seeing up here should be designed within the retail context to help them do just that, to gain efficiency on their inventory, to gain efficiency on the labor. Those are the two key pieces that a retailer has control of insofar as their costs. And so everything I think you're seeing on the stage and a lot of what you're seeing out there in the edge devices that could be brought to bear on the retail industry are all designed to help those retailers operate within those efficiency margins that they have to operate in. And make the people that are there, because labor is very hard to keep. It's like a 67% turnover in that world. Keep the labor that's there as effective and efficient as possible.
Great. We are running out of time, so I wanted to leave some time for questions. If anyone has one question at all? No one? Oh, there we go.
What's the biggest challenge you see with operationalizing the robots in the retail environment?
All of them? Anybody specific?
Yeah. So from an operationalization perspective, I think the biggest challenge is just helping the store team really understand that these are really power tools. I think it's more of an education exercise in things like change management. The deployment of the technology is actually quite simple. It becomes very much sort of set it and forget it after the solution is deployed, but I think lots of emphasis needs to be put in around education to not only the store teams, but also sort of the shoppers around the tool's value.
Great. Well, that's all we have from time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate it.